Hello, guys, and welcome back. You're watching the Camera 64 podcast, and I am your host, Alfonso Chavez. And as always, we're coming to you from sunny San Antonio, but not in the garage today. I am actually here in the kitchen getting ready to have lunch, I think. What time is it? Yeah, it's about lunch. It'll be about lunchtime. But my wife is here cooking right across from me. You can't see her, but she's here cooking. Uh, we're having some brisket as well as baked potatoes, and she's going to put some cheese sauce on it and all that good stuff. But I just wanted to take the time to make this really short video because I never really talk about processing, but we had a really interesting, I'll call it interesting quinceanera yesterday. And it was a tough situation all day yesterday. The church was one of the churches that's downtown here locally in San Antonio. It's a small church, but it's pretty popular. I've been there a few times, and it is just a tough situation to shoot in because there's so many different colors going on. So just to give you a quick breakdown, it's a pretty nice sized church on the long side, but on the vertical side, or I'm sorry, the short side, it's about maybe, I'm not sure, maybe 20 feet across or 30 feet across. So it's not too big, but it's long. And they have windows that run down both sides. And there are stained glass windows that run all the way across from the very beginning of the church where you walk in to the very end. There's stained glass. And stained glass is really nice to look at, but for actual picture purposes is not ideal by any stretch of the imagination because it introduces all sorts of different colors. Now, if you know anything about me and Camera 64, you know for a fact that colors correct in pictures is extremely important to me. But it does wreak havoc, especially a church like this. So the situation is that we have that we have the tungsten lighting, and of course the opposite end of the spectrum is going to be the blue spectrum, or like a sky blue kind of color. Well, this church had all those situations going on all at the same time. So at the altar, they actually had blue lighting, which is a lot. It was actually a lot brighter, or a lot bluer. Let's get that correct. It was a lot bluer because they had uplighting at the altar behind where the priest was sitting at, and it was super bright, and it was also super blue. But once you came off of the altar a little bit, the area that was between the end of the front of the altar out to where the first people are sitting down, we had heavy tungsten lighting in that area. So those are two complete opposites of each other as far as the color spectrum for photography goes. And then it was even worse yet, further back to the area where all the people that were attending the quinceañera were sitting at, had a green light to it, had a green tint to it. So as you can imagine, trying to get that correct in picture is, I'm not going to say nearly impossible. It absolutely is impossible. It's the worst situation that you can be in. So there's ways to deal with that. But in a church, majority of the time, especially Catholic churches, they do not want you using flash at all in their church, which is understandable. We want to respect what the priest, as well as the customs of the Catholic Church. We want to make sure that we are sticking to the rules. And so I didn't ask, but just from experience, I know to not even ask. Basically, is what it works down to. And I went ahead and did not use flash at all. So what cameras was I using? Well, I was using my two old cameras, which I've talked about before. I had the 1D Mark III and a 1D Mark IV, and I was sporting a 35 1.4 on one of the cameras, and then I also had a 50 millimeter 1.4, and then I had for the shots where I needed to move back and get out of the way, I had the 100 macro 2.8. And they all did a fantastic job. I didn't use flash at all. but I did have to make adjustments as I was going along, obviously, for the different color. And then even after taking the pictures and I get them back home, I have them all loaded onto my computer, so we can still see that there is a situation. Now, in the beginning, it's hard to kind of decipher, well, how do I color correct when you have three different majority colors kind of clashing with each other? Well, my idea is whatever the subject is, we want to get the color correction correct on our subject at all times. So in this case, being that it's a quinceañera, we want to make sure that her face and her dress are always the correct color. Okay, so let's just say she was in a heavy tungsten area of the church, then obviously she's going to be correct, but what's behind her is going to be super blue, or if it was facing the green side, what's behind her is going to be super green. So it's just a part of it, right? But as long as the color, for me, and again, it's personal preference for each and every photographer, but that's what I have chosen to do, and I will always correct the quinceañera or the bride and groom for their skin tones to be correct and their dress color to also be correct. So that's how I choose. So that was a tough situation, but we got through it, and it actually, with a little bit of work and a little bit of tweaking, the pictures didn't come out too bad. I ended up shooting about 600 pictures at the church, and after I went through and did my editing, I ended up with about, maybe, I think it was 350 pictures, maybe 400, and they actually came out really good. So here I am now at the hall, and we're gonna take a look at this first picture. This is just a random picture. I didn't pick anything, but I did want to show this as an example as to what was going on at the church. Now here we are at the hall, and also we're kind of in the same little situation. So they had a spotlight coming down from above, and that spotlight was a slight tungsten, but again, the lighting behind her also was like a pink color. Now you can see in this picture, if we look at it here, that the lighting on her has already been adjusted to her, and the Kelvin is 5300, which is what that light is. So even though to my eye, when we were there, I thought it was just a light warm, but according to this here in Lightroom, 53 is almost daylight. It's a little bit short of daylight light color. But you can see by looking at the walls behind her, the uplighting, it's got a real orange tint to it, and that's not what it looked like when we were there. That orange is a really nice soft pink color is what it was supposed to be. But again, the way that I edit, I make sure that my subject is correct. See, her dress color is correct. It's like a rose gold, but the coloring on her dress is correct. Her dad does in fact have a black suit, and the mom did in fact have a gold dress, right? And so that's correct. So I just wanted to bring that up because for me personally, color is the most important thing. I think it's one of the things that a lot of new photographers will get wrong, and that's the color is not correct. And even for like my daughter-in-law, who's fairly new to this, and she's starting to do some of our editing, she's really starting to pick up on it. And Canon cameras always have had a bias two ways, and that is the inclusion of red. It always overdoes red for whatever reason. So on all my cameras, I do turn down that red toward a little bit more towards the green. And then when I do finally get the pictures into Lightroom and start editing them, I always like to create a single preset and apply it to all of them right away. And what I do is I go into the color mixer here in Lightroom, and I go to specifically to the color orange, and I'll bring down the saturation anywhere between 10 to 15, just depends, and that eliminates all that orange, and so that really tightens up the color pattern for the camera. And that's a camera correction, that's not a picture correction. So depending on what the situation was, you might have to go more, but you probably will never go less, if that makes sense. It's kind of confusing at first, but once you start editing that way, you'll start to see what I mean. But if you have a Canon camera and you go to like a Sony will always shoot cooler. Now, I don't own a Sony camera, but I have done edits for people who have second shot for me, and it's really obvious that the Sony is a lot cooler, and Canon kind of tends to stick a little bit more on the warmer side. But that's my video for today. I just wanted to point that out because I think color, like I said, and I've talked about it in the past, color is extremely important, and if you get color right, people will notice it, because that's like one of the number one things whenever we deliver prints or we deliver a canvas or even books. When we create deliver albums, that is one of the things that we always get a compliment on, and that's the fact that the colors are always not kind of soft and pleasing and correct. A lot of people say, God, the colors look so correct to what it looked like the day of, and that's exactly how we do it, guys. But that's been my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up. And if you're not enjoying it, give us a thumbs down and let us know why. And also, I'm asking for suggestions. If you have a show idea that you want to share with me or have me talk about or address, maybe you have a situation that you're not sure how to handle, whether it's editing or actually taking pictures, or even on the business side, how I go about finding new customers and keeping my current customers happy. I'll be more than happy to share any of that information for you. All you have to do is ask. Just go into the comments below and leave me a comment, and I will definitely address you. Till next time, guys, you take care. This has been Alfonso Chavez for Camera 64, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.